Digital Tutors presents a how-to.
In this lesson, we'll learn how to bake vertex color data from mental ray into our polygon meshes. What we have here is a polygon mesh which has been created using DEM or Digital Elevation Model data. And what we're going to do is we're going to bake the ambient occlusion colors right into the vertices, so we don't have to render this object with the ambient occlusion shader over and over again. So this way of baking, we can actually bake the texture in here, but since our mesh has enough polygons, it's more efficient to just bake the color data into the vertices themselves. So let's go ahead and get to it. We can do that by going over to our rendering tool set. In the rendering toolset, what we need to do is we need to take this particular polygon mesh and assign a vertex bake set to it. Let's go up here to lighting and shading, then go down to assign new bake set and assign a vertex bake set. If you want to use a texture instead of a vertex baking, if you want to bake the texture as opposed to vertices, you need to use texture bake set. We'll bake to the vertices by selecting it like so. Then in the attribute editor, let me just bring it up. We have our vertex bake set in here. Now we can go in here and change the different attributes to define what gets baked into the actual geometry here. By default, the color mode is set to light in color. So if we have maybe a bunch of shadows, these shadows will be captured onto the vertex data. But I'm more interested in the ambient occlusion data. So let's go ahead and turn on occlusion here. We can leave most of the settings at default. They usually work rather nicely. And now we have our bake set ready. Then we can just go over to batch bake. It only works with mental ray, by the way. So we can bring up the options, and I'll just reset the options so we can have it at default. And we can go ahead and ask it to just bake the selected, because we just have one object in the scene. Then we can go and change the bake to mode. We don't want to bake the texture, we want to bake to vertices. Let's select that in here. If we have any shadows that we want to put in, we can just bake the shadows. Leave the camera at perspective. And the use bake set override is usable if you don't want to add a new bake set here. If you don't want to change what you have, you just want to maybe use something else. You can just turn on use and then set what you need here. But since we have everything set up in our vertex bake set here, we don't need to make use of that. Let's just convert and close it. Mental ray will start baking to vertices, and usually the process is really fast. Let me close that. And Maya's being a little finicky, but now you can see we have our ambient occlusion data baked onto the vertex map here. You can see that it's darker in some of the bottom areas and lighter in some of the higher areas. So we have the basic dirt map baked in here. But the thing that you might notice is it looks a little bit too dirty. Well, a way by which we can fix this is we can go ahead and use the filter in the bake set to tweak it up and blur it a bit. Let's scroll down here. We have vertex color filtering. We can increase the value. The higher the value, the more blurred the vertex colors will be. A good value to maybe increase it to is maybe 0.005. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Or yeah, let's just bake it out. And the higher your filter size, the longer it'll take to bake to vertices. So that kind of improved it a bit, but by not much. I think the value I wanted to go for is 0.05, so let's try that now. And we'll go to light, shading, batch bake. And it's churning it out. It's writing the vertex values now. It's definitely visible that it's taking a little bit longer. And there we go. So now you can see the vertex colors are blended a bit, maybe too nicely. So maybe we might want to consider using maybe a value that's in between. So we can just try 0.09. Let's try to bake that again. So you can see changing the filter size will give you different results. So that's a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer, not too much more. And that's the ambient occlusion baked right in there. So the good thing about it is we can maybe use this in a game engine, for example, and it'll have the occlusion already pre-baked into the mesh, so that's good. And if you want to use it with mental ray, you need to make use, and the hypershade, you need to make use of a special node under textures, which is mental ray vertex colors. This mental ray vertex colors will need to interface with the color per vertex set. and this will be covered in the mental ray shader kit, and we can cover this probably in the next lesson.